The Dolphins made Ndamukong Suh the richest defensive player in NFL history this offseason. No tampering was involved, as first reported by the Miami Herald. Kerry Chow, joined by ESPN NFL insider Jarrett Bell. Jarrett, Suh signed a 6-year, $114 million deal with Miami. ESPN reported the deal 2 days before sides were allowed to formalize the contract. So why did the NFL clear the Dolphins of tampering charges?
Well, I think they did their due diligence. They tried to find out if a deal was actually in place, and apparently they were unable to get that part of it confirmed. But it did raise suspicions. It triggered the investigation, the probe, and the Dolphins have been cleared of this. Now, it's interesting too, Kerry, because we're talking about 2 days before the free agency market open, when teams are actually allowed to negotiate. It's what they call legal tampering, but during that window, you're not supposed to have a deal finalized. Well, when you're negotiating and you're talking, sometimes it can be difficult to get an idea of exactly how a team is going to pursue your client without at least having some idea of the numbers. So I suspect it was one of these things, which I think a lot of teams do during that period, where they'll say, I'm interested in your guy. This is about what we can do, what we'd be interested in. And it kind of goes from there. Now, obviously, Suh being the biggest player on the market, those numbers kind of had to be real and they had to be backed up. And when it was reported, boy, it ended up being that was the deal.
Pretty significant. It's such a fine line between the negotiation and the formalized contract, it seems.
Yeah, and it really, I think a lot of times it comes down to what's on paper and whether or not you feel like that's a binding agreement. So even if you do have some negotiations during that time, what's to say that a team can't come back when the market opens 2 days later and say, oh, by the way, we can't really pay that? Well, you're still a free agent. You still don't have a deal. So I think that's part of the equation as well. But interestingly, when this happened, Kerry, the NFL pretty much put all 32 teams on alert and told them, save your phone records, save all of your documentation from what's going on during this legal tampering period, because we may want to come back and take a look at it. So really it made a lot of people nervous, but none more nervous than the Dolphins, because before Suh's deal was announced and you'd call the Dolphins, at least I would as a reporter, there was nothing coming out of there. Once it became known that they were being watched, they were very careful not to say they had a deal with Ndamukong Suh until they got that deal, which was actually a couple days after the free agency market opened.
And Suh, obviously very happy at that deal, $114 million deal over 6 years again. For the latest on the Dolphins, be sure to check out the NFL Nation blog. He's ESPN NFL insider Jarrett Bell. I'm Kerry Chow.